Survey report, Manipur violence and atrocities, May 2023, July 2025. Based on reports from Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, The Wire, Reuters, Indian Express, New York Times, and others. The ethnic violence that erupted in Manipur on May 3, 2023 continues to leave a devastating mark across communities, primarily between the Meitei and Kuki-Zo populations. Over 2 years since its outbreak, the conflict has led to the death of more than 200 people and displaced over 60,000 others. The reported atrocities are wide-ranging and severe, including murder, sexual violence, mass displacement, arson, and large-scale destruction of homes and religious structures. Credible documentation from sources such as Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, The Guardian, Indian Express, and Reuters points to grave human rights abuses, a breakdown of law and order, and political bias that exacerbated tensions. This report outlines key points, background context, and the top 10 most egregious atrocities committed during this conflict. Key developments. Research indicates that since May 2023, widespread acts of violence have included targeted killings, sexual assaults, looting, and destruction of cultural and religious properties. The parading and public assault of 2 Kuki women on May 4, 2023 shocked the nation, igniting international outrage. Evidence suggests both mobs and some state security personnel played roles in these crimes, with little to no accountability. Efforts at reconciliation remain limited, and the community's trust in the state's governance continues to erode. The prolonged suffering and displacement of thousands highlight a deep humanitarian and political crisis. Conflict background. The violence in Manipur was triggered when the Manipur High Court ordered the state to consider granting Scheduled Tribe (ST) status to the Meitei community, which already constitutes the majority in the Imphal Valley. This decision sparked protests from tribal communities like the Kuki-Zo, who feared loss of land, identity, and representation. Tensions quickly escalated into armed violence. The Meiteis, primarily Hindu, represent around 53% of the population, while the Kuki-Zo, predominantly Christian, make up about 16%. As the situation spiraled out of control, the Indian government deployed over 40 military and paramilitary forces. Despite this, allegations of police complicity and bias toward Meitei groups persisted. Groups like Arambai Tengol and Meitei Lipun, with alleged political patronage, were accused of leading mob attacks, while civil society leaders and human rights organizations demanded justice and accountability. Top 10 atrocities committed. 1. Murder and lynching. In the first week of the violence, at least 77 Kukis and 10 Meiteis were killed. The killings were carried out brutally through beatings, public lynching, and shootings. Source: Reuters, Telegraph India. 2. Mutilation and extreme violence. Several cases involved beheadings and mutilation of victims. Women were subjected to degrading physical abuse and psychological trauma. Source: Outlook India, The Wire. 3. Mass rape and sexual assault. On May 4, 2023, 2 Kuki women were stripped, paraded naked, and assaulted by a mob. One of them was gang-raped. Their family members were murdered. The incident drew international condemnation after a video of the event surfaced. Source: New York Times, Indian Express. 4. Arson of homes and worship centers. More than 786 homes were burned, along with 400 churches and 132 temples. The destruction forced thousands to flee and left entire neighborhoods in ashes. Source: Indian Express, Human Rights Without Frontiers. 5. Systematic vandalism. Beyond arson, deliberate acts of vandalism targeted cultural symbols. Nearly 988 Meitei homes, 425 Kuki homes, 17 temples, and 221 churches were destroyed. Source: India Today Nay. 6. Plundering of weapons. Over 6,000 arms and 600 rounds of ammunition were looted from police stations and armories. Only 144 weapons were recovered, arming militant groups and extending the violence. Source: Indian Express. Times of India. 7. Mass displacement. Over 0 people were displaced and forced into overcrowded relief camps. The displaced face starvation, lack of medical care, and psychological trauma. Source: Amnesty International. 8. Extrajudicial killings by security forces. At least 40 alleged militants were killed by security personnel, sparking accusations of targeted killings and use of excessive force. Source: Human Rights Watch. 9. Mob violence and vigilante attacks. Civilians, students, and even legislators were assaulted by mobs, some led by vigilante groups. Many attacks occurred in the presence of police who did not intervene. Source: The Wire. 10. Gender-based violence. Beyond the highly publicized cases, there were several unreported or underreported incidents of rape and molestation of Kuki women by Meitei mobs. Source: The Guardian. Deeper analysis and societal impact. These atrocities are not isolated incidents, but point to a systemic targeting of the Kuki-Zo community. The killings, sexual violence, and destruction of religious sites demonstrate an organized pattern of ethnic cleansing, according to rights observers. Several survivors have expressed fears of returning home, even under security cover, fearing renewed attacks or harassment by state forces. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have repeatedly called out the Indian government for failing to protect vulnerable communities and for allowing impunity to prevail. Many have questioned the credibility of ongoing investigations, especially since survivors of sexual assault have refused to cooperate with state agencies they no longer trust. Political controversies have deepened. The BJP-led state government under Chief Minister N. Biren Singh was accused of favoring the Meitei community. The situation escalated further when President's rule was imposed in February 2025 after Singh's resignation. Despite this, peace talks stalled and clashes resumed, including drone strikes in September 2024 that injured dozens. Humanitarian consequences. Relief camps are overcrowded and under-resourced. Families have been separated for over a year. Children are out of school. Food shortages, trauma, and the loss of livelihoods plague the displaced. Organizations have called for long-term rehabilitation programs, yet no concrete plan has materialized. International organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have documented not only the human rights violations, but also the long-term breakdown of Manipur's civic and administrative structures. The judiciary has intervened, and peace committees have been formed, but with limited effectiveness. Local communities demand justice, not just for the present, but for decades of unaddressed grievances. Conclusion. The Manipur violence since May 2023 has turned into one of India's worst internal ethnic conflicts in recent history. The documented atrocities, murders, rapes, arson, and forced displacement paint a grim picture of a state in crisis. The government's response, marred by allegations of bias and inefficiency, has failed to contain the violence or provide justice. As the conflict continues into 2025, the path forward demands not only law enforcement and peacekeeping, but a genuine effort to restore trust, ensure accountability, and uphold the rule of law. Reconciliation must begin with acknowledgement, justice, and reparations for the victims. Zalengam Media will continue to monitor the situation and provide verified, source-backed updates as they unfold. Disclaimer. This article is based on documented reports and eyewitness accounts compiled from reputable organizations and news media. Zalengam Media does not support or promote any group or entity mentioned. The content aims solely to inform and raise awareness about the humanitarian impact of the Manipur conflict.
This area from Lemakong.